Welcome to the Network Plus Prepcast, your dedicated audio companion for mastering every objective on the CompTIA Network Plus certification exam. This series is produced by baremetalcyber.com. In episode 134, we explore the strategies organizations use to recover quickly from major outages. When the primary site goes offline, whether from a cyber attack, hardware failure, or natural disaster, disaster recovery sites enable continued operations with minimal disruption. These secondary locations are not optional. In enterprise environments, they are essential for ensuring business continuity. For Network Plus candidates, understanding the different types of recovery sites is crucial for both the certification exam and real-world infrastructure design. This episode covers the full range of disaster recovery site architectures: cold sites, warm sites, hot sites, cloud-based recovery models, and active-active environments. Each option offers a different balance of cost, complexity, and readiness. Choosing the right model depends on the organization's recovery time objective, or RTO, and recovery point objective, or RPO, as well as budget and operational needs. On the exam, you'll be expected to compare these architectures, identify their use cases, and recognize the factors that influence design choices. A disaster recovery site is a secondary location prepared to take over operations if the primary site becomes unavailable. This site supports failover and restoration of services after events such as cyber attacks, fires, power outages, or natural disasters. Depending on the chosen architecture, a disaster recovery site may be pre-configured with hardware, data, and connectivity, or it may be a bare facility waiting to be activated. On the exam, you'll need to define a disaster recovery site and distinguish it from concepts like backups or high availability. A cold site is the most basic form of disaster recovery site. It typically includes building space, power, cooling, and connectivity, but no pre-installed equipment or synchronized data. In the event of a disaster, equipment must be delivered and configured from scratch. This results in the longest recovery time but also the lowest cost. Cold sites are best suited for non-critical systems or small organizations with limited budgets. On the exam, expect to identify a cold site as low cost and high RTO. A warm site represents a middle ground. These facilities have network and server hardware installed but do not maintain real-time data synchronization. In a disaster, the latest data must be restored from backups, and services may need to be configured. Recovery is faster than a cold site, but still slower than a hot site. Warm sites are commonly used when moderate RTO and RPO targets are acceptable. The exam may test your ability to distinguish warm sites based on partial readiness and intermediate recovery speed. A hot site is fully equipped and maintains real-time or near real-time synchronization with the primary site. This includes matching hardware, up-to-date data, and tested failover systems. In many designs, users and applications can resume operations at the hot site with minimal delay. These sites are the most expensive to maintain, but offer the fastest recovery time. For mission-critical services, hot sites provide the level of continuity required to avoid business disruption. The exam often includes hot site scenarios that demand rapid response and minimal data loss. Cloud-based disaster recovery uses cloud infrastructure as the secondary site. Organizations replicate data and virtual machines to cloud providers, allowing on-demand activation if the primary site fails. This approach offers scalability, geographic diversity, and reduced infrastructure costs compared to physical hot sites. Cloud disaster recovery can be pre-configured or provisioned dynamically. For the exam, expect questions about cloud failover benefits and how cloud platforms support disaster recovery through infrastructure as a service, or IaaS, and platform as a service, or PaaS. Active-active architecture is the most advanced and resilient design. In this model, two or more sites operate simultaneously, sharing live traffic and load balancing across environments. If one site fails, the others continue without disruption. Active setups require real-time data synchronization and complex configuration management. While expensive and operationally complex, they deliver the highest availability. On the exam, you'll be expected to recognize active-active environments as high-performance, low RTO solutions that demand advanced planning. Data synchronization between primary and disaster recovery sites is a critical factor. Synchronous replication ensures that data is written to both sites at the same time, minimizing or eliminating data loss, but it requires high bandwidth and can increase latency. Asynchronous replication introduces slight delays between sites, which reduces bandwidth usage but risks some data loss if a failure occurs mid-transfer. On the exam, you'll need to match synchronization methods to RPO targets and explain how they impact system design. Connectivity between sites is just as important as the sites themselves. Common options include VPN tunnels, MPLS links, and dedicated fiber circuits. These connections must offer enough bandwidth to support data replication and failover traffic. Redundant paths ensure that failover can occur even if the main link is down. Organizations must test these links for latency, bandwidth, and failover behavior. On the exam, expect to evaluate which connectivity types support different recovery architectures and replication methods. Choosing between cold, warm, and hot sites often comes down to cost versus recovery speed. Cold sites are inexpensive but slow to activate. Hot sites are ready instantly but come with high operational costs. Warm sites balance the two. Cloud and active-active models add scalability and performance but require careful planning and budget justification. The exam may include scenarios asking which site type best fits a specific RTO or budget constraint. For more cyber content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other podcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Testing disaster recovery sites is essential to ensure they work as expected during a real crisis. Regular failover drills help verify that hardware powers on correctly, data is accessible, and services can resume in the designated recovery time. Tests can range from tabletop exercises to full simulations involving actual traffic redirection. Testing also uncovers gaps such as misconfigured backups or missing dependencies that might not be obvious during daily operations. On the exam, you may be asked about the value of DR testing and how it contributes to readiness and confidence in your recovery process. Choosing the right disaster recovery architecture depends on several factors. Recovery time objectives and recovery point objectives define how quickly systems must be restored and how much data loss is acceptable. Organizations must also consider compliance requirements, industry standards, and the criticality of their services. Geographic diversity is another factor. Selecting sites far enough apart to avoid shared risk from regional disasters, the exam may present design scenarios requiring you to select the most appropriate recovery site type based on business needs and recovery targets. Cloud failover strategies include using cloud infrastructure as a standby environment. Some organizations pre-provision cloud resources that sit idle until needed. Others rely on cloud automation tools to spin up virtual machines and restore services during a failure. Services such as infrastructure as a service allow administrators to replicate on-prem systems to cloud storage, while platform as a service options may be used for applications with less stringent configuration needs. For the exam, expect to match cloud-based solutions to scenarios where cost, scalability, or agility are priorities. Hybrid disaster recovery environments are increasingly common. These combine on-premises hardware, virtualized infrastructure, and cloud platforms into a layered architecture. For instance, a warm physical site may back up critical systems, while cloud services provide temporary user access during an outage. This layered approach requires tight coordination across technologies, platforms, and teams. It can offer greater flexibility, but also adds complexity. The exam may test your ability to recognize hybrid DR models and explain how multiple technologies are integrated into a unified continuity strategy. Security in disaster recovery is just as important as performance. During replication, data must be encrypted in transit and at rest. Standby systems must have the same access controls as production environments. Monitoring should continue during failover, and audit logs should track every activity. Without these protections, the DR site could become a weak point in the organization's security posture. The exam may include questions about how to secure DR operations, enforce policies, and maintain consistent protections even during failover. Active sites offer the best performance and availability, but they also introduce new challenges. Keeping data consistent across multiple live sites requires careful application design and real-time synchronization. Applications must handle concurrent writes and prevent conflicts. Load balancing needs to be seamless. These environments require constant monitoring and coordination to avoid data corruption or service disruption. On the exam, expect questions about the complexity of active systems and why they require more advanced planning than other DR options. Documenting your disaster recovery plan ensures that all systems, dependencies, and recovery steps are known in advance. These documents should include diagrams of primary and failover paths, hardware inventories, vendor support contacts, and step-by-step procedures for restoring services. Documentation also includes test schedules and results, allowing teams to track improvements and verify that previous gaps have been resolved. The exam may test your knowledge of what belongs in DR documentation and how these materials support both preparation and compliance. To summarize, disaster recovery architecture is not one size fits all. Cold, warm, hot, cloud-based, and active-active options each offer trade-offs in cost, complexity, and recovery speed. What matters most is selecting the approach that aligns with business impact, RTO and RPO requirements, and operational capabilities. Testing, documenting, and securing your strategy ensures that when disaster strikes, recovery is fast, accurate, and controlled. For Network Plus candidates, understanding these distinctions is essential for both exam success and professional readiness. To conclude episode 134, disaster recovery planning is about readiness, not just recovery. The right site architecture minimizes downtime, protects critical data, and keeps your organization running in the face of disruption. Whether you're building a hot site, leveraging the cloud, or designing a hybrid approach, your ability to plan, test, and maintain these systems is central to operational resilience. For the exam and for your future in networking, mastering these recovery models is a must. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Network Plus Prepcast, your trusted audio guide to the CompTIA Network Plus certification. This episode was produced by baremetalcyber.com. For more cybersecurity podcasts, books, and resources, visit baremetalcyber.com. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bare Metal Cybersecurity Plus podcast. For more episodes, tools, and study support, visit us at baremetalcyber.com. And before you take the test, make sure to check out the practice questions in the book Achieve CompTIA Security Plus SY0-701 Exam Success by Dr. Jason Edwards. They cover every domain and are a powerful way to lock in your knowledge.